Welcome this evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the webinar for track and field or athletics for the pre-competition leading into summer games. And the precursor slides you see here are some informational purposes in regards to athlete leadership. That'll have a table at the Healthy Athletes activities in the Union on Saturday. Talks about our dance, and where the media room will also have, which is right outside the main level there in the TU arena, where they'll have athletes who are interested in talking about the media team joining that or getting information, as well as healthy athletes in the different disciplines on Saturday from 11 to 6 in the Union, the different disciplines you see here. And again, there's a car donation program as well that we wanted everyone to have. And again, these slides will be available in the recording. And the link to the webinar, as you saw, we just started the recording to make sure that these informational slides are included with the recording. So very good.
Okay, so let me stop sharing for just a moment and get the next up and running. There we go. And Steve, you're on.
Sounds good. And once again, this is the athletics or track and field pre-competition webinar leading into summer games. Again, thank you all for joining this evening. We hope that you find the information informative and helpful in your final plans leading into summer games. Again, my name is Steve Bennett, Senior Director of Sports and Competition for Special Olympics Maryland. We also have Ron Freeman, our leader and venue director for athletics on the management team. And then Mike Sarnowski, our Vice President of Sports at Special Olympics Maryland. And what we'll go over tonight are just some basic stuff, again, regarding summer games. I'll give you some updated information, talking about the general schedule, some other general information that we think will provide helpful information to you. We'll go over some competition schedules. We'll look at some maps of Towson University in different locations. And then at the end, we'll try to get to all the questions. If you do have a question in the meantime, as you saw, it's being recorded. If you could keep muted throughout the webinar, make sure we get through all the slides that we need to get through tonight. You can type a question in the chat box, or you can raise your hand, and depending on what the question is and how that comes across, we will either get to it in the chat or bring it up for everyone if we feel that it's something that would be beneficial for everyone to hear. So again, we'll get started with some opening ceremony information, general information, block party, transportation, the dance, some other activities we have going on at summer games. And then once I get through the general information, then I'll turn it over to Ron and Mike to talk in regards to the specifics of athletics or track and field. So we're excited to let you all know, if you haven't seen it yet, this is the logo or the theme of the games. And you may see this moving forward in different activities and events we have throughout the year, but the experience inclusion will be the theme that you see at summer games. And like I said, most likely throughout other events this year. So this is an overall layout of the Towson area, if you will. You can see a couple key marking points we put on the map, thanks to Mike, with some of the major feeder roads and boulevards and things coming into Towson University, the Osler Drive, Towson Town Boulevard, as well as York Road and Charles Streets coming in. You can see the biggest thing probably that's able to be seen here. I think that is the United Stadium. You kind of see in the bottom center leftish area, if you will, where the cursor is there. So that kind of gives you a lay of the land of where things are. We also pointed out the housing facilities at the Towson Run Apartments. That's one of the areas where delegations will be housed. And then the University Union, where the heads of delegation will check in on Thursday, as well as the Healthy Athletes programs and other activities, generally in that location or general area, or swimming and bocce as well. So here's more of a deep dive into the campus map, if you will. I'm not going to go through everything pointed out on this map. Again, you can take a look at it in your leisure. But a few things for track and field specifically I'd like to point out. First of all would be the parking lots 4 and 5, where the cursor is there. That's where the families, spectators, there's also a bus stop. You can see the little yellow icon there between lots 4 and 5. That's one of the drop-offs for track and field. The other one's right on the other side of the stadium, coming up the road, right where the cursor is there, kind of in between the Towson University Arena and the press box side of the track. Obviously, the track and field there inside the United Stadium. We will have a few other points of emphasis here is the TU Arena, formerly known as the CQ Arena. That's where the opening ceremonies will take place on Friday evening. There is no parking back in lot 7 behind that building. So just want to make sure everyone knows the shuttle buses will bring you up to that lot, but there will be no individual cars or parking allowed within that parking lot number 7. You can see the other sporting competition venues in yellow. Not going to go through all of them, just let you know where they are. Those of you who are staying overnight on campus, you can see up in the top left kind of portion of the slide here. We'll be in the West Village area for Towson Run Apartments, anybody staying there, as well as Barton Hall. And then we have the Residence Tower located down the road a little bit. And there'll be shuttles located both of those areas. The dining area is also located in the West Village, and we'll talk about that later on the slide. But just wanted to give you some basics here. Your heads of delegation, the main control center for the entire summer games is in the Minigan room. That's where the heads of delegation can come and ask questions or get some updates and things like that nature. But the general control center, which again we'll show you later for track and field, will be on the field or down on field level of the track.
Second. There we go.
And again, I'm not going to go through the entire schedule. I think the blue X there, I don't know if everybody's seeing that. I think that's just a little marker that doesn't indicate anything that's wrong or whatever else. So just a few, thank you, Mike. Just a few things on this that I'll point out. Again, you can take a look at this later on. Just some things I do want to point out that on Friday, we just have 2 competitions occurring starting on Friday. One is cheerleading, which that's the only day cheerleading occurs. And then swimming starts on Friday as well. Those are the 2 competition operations that'll be occurring on Friday. Everything else will start Saturday and Sunday. We do have a young athlete celebration, which is going to be a pretty cool thing coming back to summer games. That's kind of where we talked about the opening ceremony. It's back behind that area in the field hockey field. Back behind lot 7. We do have the opening ceremony beginning. Thank you, Mike. Yeah, the field hockey field is right back there where you see the cursor, kind of right beside the softball main varsity field, if you will. Again, we have the opening ceremony. We do have dinner on Friday as well. And then you can see the coaches meetings there and we'll talk about the track and field coaches meeting in just a second, but you can see, remember, a reminder on Friday is the first meal for pretty much everyone will be the dinner. The only competition venue that has lunch being delivered, if you will, on Friday is cheerleading. So moving into Saturday, the buses will start moving around early in the morning to get everybody where they need to go. Again, you can see that the first thing of going on with track and field, if you will, is 8:30 kind of starting point. Again, we'll have maybe some specifics here later on more detailed information on the schedule for track, although we're just now starting to look at all of the registrations that were due, and the deadline was yesterday. So once we get that all dialed in, we'll be able to dial in the actual schedule for track and field. But again, you can see the healthy athletes that we talked about at the opening of the meeting tonight from 11 to 6. That's the only day healthy athletes will be operational. So again, a big push to get anybody who's able and has some time to go over and take advantage of those free screenings and medical services. Mike, something you want to add?
Yeah, just one note on that. The folks who are running the healthy athletes intentionally ran it or scheduled it so it goes till 6 o'clock, since we don't know the end time on the track at this moment. But if weather is good and if it holds to how it was in previous years, we should be done at the track between maybe 3 and 4, maybe even a little bit earlier. And so there should be time for folks to take a bus over or whatever, and make use of the healthy athletes, even though it's not right there at the track.
Thank you, Mike. And I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but Friday is the opening ceremony. Again, you can look at that. And then the activity on the evening of Saturday is the dance. The theme of the dance, if you haven't heard about that already, is Seize the Day. Seize spelled with a play on words there. Seas like the open seas and the ocean kind of thing. Excuse me. And then you can see the breakfast schedules. We're kind of doing those in shifts, if you will, by sport. Again, the breakfast and dinners are only for those registered delegation members who are staying overnight. They'll require the swipe card to get into the dormitories, if you will, or the housing facilities. That will give you access to the dining hall. But again, just a reminder, the lunch or the dinner and breakfast meals are only provided to those who have the housing overnight. The lunches will be delivered to the competition venues. The head coach and or depending on how big your track team is, can have 1 or 2 people come and grab those meals up in the concourse press box side once they are announced that they are available for pickup. Again, similarly, you can see the dinner shifts. Again, because of the limited seating capacity, we're going to have about 600 to 650 people coming through on the breakfast and dinners. So again, try to stick to those shifts by sport as much as possible. We understand there may be some challenges with weather, schedules, and things of that nature. But if you could work with your teams and try to work that out and stick to that as much as possible, that would be very much appreciated. You can see it looks like a decision has been made, thanks to Mike and Ron, getting some input from some track coaches, etc. Is that on Friday there will be no head coaches meeting for track. Instead, it will be outside the Athletics Control Center, which we'll show you on a slide down on field level on Saturday morning from 8 to 8:20 a.m. So again, just make sure that you're prepared and at least have your head coach or a coach representing your program there to make sure you get any important information that Ron gives to his team or Mike to share with you at that time. And then moving into Sunday, again, the buses roaming around campus and at the different drop points, which we'll talk about later. But track, again, running from approximately 8:30 to 2, based on the registrations and the schedule. It's kind of the game plan, if you will, for now. So a few updates, generally speaking, for summer games. You've heard me reference the Towson University Arena. That's where the opening ceremony will take place and the dance on Saturday. We say that because it used to be named the CQ Arena by the naming rights and the contractual agreement that Towson University had with CQ. The CQ is still on the building, from my understanding, right, as of today. And but technically speaking, it is to be referred to as the TU Arena or the Towson University Arena. So I just want to make sure everybody has an idea and the knowledge base for that in case you call it CQ. I think most people, including all the people in Towson, will know what you're talking about if you ask for questions or directions to that location. But if they say, oh, you mean the TU Arena, just want to make sure everyone's aware of that change. The other thing, which is really important here for the group tonight, is the United Stadium in Towson has done a complete resurface of the track surface at field level. And it has done some other renovations and brought in some temporary structures, if you will, that are permanently left there, but they are removable, but not for our purposes. So again, when we get to the layout, we'll talk about the change and how that affects you of what you have seen in the past in regards to at the field level, where some certain operations are, such as awards, the control center, some of the tents, etc., like that. So again, it looks absolutely beautiful. It's gotten full approval from Mike and Ron, our track and field experts. It came across really, really exceptionally well on TV when they were hosting the lacrosse championships and things like that. So we also need to be very respectful of that surface as well. So Mike, anything you want to add?
Quarterfinals.
quarterfinals, my bad.
Yeah.
So a few more other updates we want to remind you about. We talked about the opening ceremony and block party, but here's a little bit more information. Again, we talked about the West Village for the dinners, and that's also where the breakfast will be on Saturday and Sunday. The block party leading into the opening ceremony, and then Olympic Park. Again, in that TU Arena or Lot 7. Those of you who've been there before, that's where the buses come up, drop you off in the big parking lot behind that building. We have some activities leading into the opening ceremony. And then on Saturday night, we have decided again this year to move the dance inside the CQ Arena. Just takes out the weather issues and other things like that. So again, that'll be some fun activities with entertainers. There will be some food vendors, pizza basically, and Kona Ice. The staging for the opening ceremony will begin at 6:30 for those who have been selected to represent your delegation to walk in the parade. Others will be escorted or directed to their seats inside the TU Arena. And then the lighting of the cauldron will be televised on the screen, if you will, inside the TU Arena, and the law enforcement portion of that as well. So some exciting things there at opening ceremony. So we get to transportation. I'm not going to read through this real thoroughly or anything like that, but just know that there will be shuttle buses going throughout campus. When we start activities on Friday, they'll be, heading to the swimming venue. They'll be heading to the parking lots. They will be picking up, servicing the different locations around campus to get people to the West Village for dinner, then circling back and heading back up to the TU Arena or Lot 7 for the activities, and then leading into opening ceremony. But throughout the summer games, if you will, they'll start early in the morning, and they will service the residence hall, the West Village location. They'll hit the different venues around campus with swimming at Burdick Hall, bocce at Burdick Fields, the University Union Garage, and then coming over to the track and cheerleading side of campus, if you will, the different major parking lots up there in regards to by the stadium, lots 4 and 5, the one down at the bottom of the hill, lot 6, and then during Friday hitting the cheerleading competition venue at Towson Center. They will also obviously pick you guys up at the end of the opening ceremony and the end of the dance and get everybody back to the dormitories. Again, hitting the West Village for dinner, getting them back up for the activities, and then back in the evenings to the residence halls. One of the things is, as I think we'll be able to point out on the new layout of the track, is there's, for you guys down at the bottom of the hill, regardless of which way you're coming to the stadium, there is a lot 6, which is by the soccer stadium or facilities, if you will. There's a little loading dock right across that street that backs into the United Stadium, if you will. That is a loading dock. There is absolutely to be no one parking there. We will have signs indicating such, but just so you know, don't think, oh, I'm just going to park here. This looks pretty convenient. You will be towed. We don't want to tow you. We don't want you to be towed. So just be mindful of that. Again, this just talks a little bit more details and gives you access, or gives you points of emphasis or points of where the shuttle buses will go. Typically, it would be about 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes at each location until another bus comes and services that area. So if you get there, give yourself time. If you want to catch a shuttle, just make sure that you give yourself a little time. Many times we've had people wait or try to start walking, say, well, I'm going to be late. I can't wait on a shuttle. And then by the time they're halfway to where they're going, the shuttle bus has passed them after picking up the individuals. So again, just be aware of that. And all the transportation buses on campus will be wheelchair accessible with lifts on the buses. The opening ceremony departure, again, everyone will be seated, whether in their designated seats or otherwise. Stay in your seats until the end of the opening ceremony. The MCs of the opening ceremony will call you guys out by delegation in order to get you back up to the buses. in an organized fashion, get you back to your housing facilities for those of you who are staying overnight. But just be patient with that. Be about 500 people per wave, give or take, as we do the exodus with the shuttle buses. And again, once we get the final information from the heads of delegation for Mike, he'll talk in detail with them in regards to the plan of action, working with the MCs on those announcements. Again, Saturday, same basic thing as the general shuttle buses throughout the day. Again, just know that they're going to be hitting all points of where we have activities throughout the campus. Same thing for Sunday. Again, just hitting all those points of emphasis around campus, and they'll just be doing loops. Okay. So one of the things that I will note on for the shuttle buses on campus, if they're crowded, you are able to stand on the shuttle buses if you so desire. And again, as we emphasize, no parking, that backloading dock. We talked about the theme of the dance Seize the Day. You'll see the experience inclusion throughout this slide deck and others. So again, just a re-emphasis on the points of some of the other activities, the Olympic Park, Victory Dance, and Block Party there. So meals, I hit that a little bit, but again, just a reminder, again, Friday, the only competition or the only competitors, even though swimming is happening on Friday, the only competitors who will be given lunch from Special Mix Maryland is the cheerleaders. Swimming starts a little later in the day. They've all been made aware of that. So just want everyone to remind yourselves that, and any others who will be coming up on Friday. Again, we talked about the overnight individuals are the ones who would have access to breakfast and dinners, and then everything else, people are on their own. There is a possibility, like we talked about, for Friday and Saturday for pizza bowlies, purchase of pizza leading into the opening ceremony, as also at the dance. So the control center, again, the control center for the entire summer games up in the Minigan room on the press box side of the United Stadium. That's for the heads of delegations only. It's can be a very intense operational phase, depending on situations that are going on with summer games. So it's not a hangout area. As track and field or athletics head coaches or coaches, you guys can go to the control center at the track. I see a question, can't cash purchase, and I missed that you are not able to purchase any cards, swipe cards or whatever to get access if that was the question.
I think Tina was asking regarding pizza bowlies or something like that. So that I don't know.
Yeah, a good question, Tina, or whoever asked that question. I'm not 100% sure. I'll try to get clarification on that. Yeah. I think they would, I would assume, but I do not know for certain, that they would have both options for cash purchase as well as card, but I would be prepared for both. And let's just leave it at that. Again, I'm not 100% sure. We just got clarification on that.
We'll look to have an answer to that for the head of delegation meeting, which is next Monday. So and they can share it with you.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the time, and I want to be sure that we can get through everything. We're already at 23 after.
Okay, gotcha. So heads of delegation, they'll do the registrations on June 30th or June 20th. They will have your keys and everything, and be prepared for you guys to arrive when you get there. If those of you staying overnight, make sure you keep possession of your keys. There is a pretty significant fee for lost keys. The event guide, we're looking to post that on the coaches resource page by the end of the week. So be on the lookout for that on our coaches resource page. Medical reminders, again, the typical things we do at every event. Look out for exposure to heat, wind, cold, rain, etc. Hydration, keep everybody hydrated. Again, just be prepared for all different types of weather. Protests as head coaches, you and or your competitors for track and field only.
Actually, Steve, we cover protests at the end of the track section.
Okay, gotcha.
So rather than us being redundant.
Yep. Coaches, only those who have the full certifications and paperwork and courses completed will be credentialed as head coaches. Anybody else who was listed as a head coach may be downshifted, if you will, to the most the
The
role that,
highest level they've achieved, the highest
yes.
level. Yeah.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
Again, that'd be according to what courses and other paperwork and certifications you have. So again, we just referenced the coach's resource page again. Well, they're not going to go through all that. The one thing I will say for track and field, there is the opportunity to put pop-up tents in the bleachers in certain areas. But please be aware that based on wind and other activities that may come from a weather perspective, the management team at Towson University and or Special Mix Maryland may require those to be taken down. So we appreciate your cooperation with any family members, yourselves, or the others, if that situation does present itself. Just talked about that. One of the things is we don't have sunscreen. We won't be handing sunscreen out. So work with your teams to make sure you have some, and double check with the athletes if there's any allergies to certain ointments or sunscreen applications. One of the things here is if we do have an evacuation like we had last year, please follow the directions from the announcements for track and field or athletics. Your emergency evacuation location is the Towson University Arena. That's the building where the opening ceremony is and the dance. You are not allowed to stay in the concourse areas. Basically, think of it as if you can see, if you're outside, if you can see the sky or your whatever, lightning can find you anywhere you are. So you will be directed to the Towson University Arena for emergency evacuations. Here's just some resources for you. As we said, we're currently have vacancies in 2 sports director positions. Mike will be the go-to person, Mike Sarnowski, in regards to track and field in the interim until we fill that position and through summer games, because when we bring somebody on for either sport, they won't have the knowledge base to answer a lot of questions. You can see my name down for swimming in the same interim liaison and capacity that Mike is for track and field, and then myself down at the bottom for any general questions. So with that, appreciate it. Sorry if I went over my allotted time. I will turn it over to Mike and Ron to hit some specifics in regards to track and field and the competition there.
Okay. Thank you. So Ron and I talked, and I'm going to present this portion. For those who aren't aware, Ron is going to do the heavy lift leading into the games, but unfortunately, he will not be able to be physically present at summer games. So I'll be filling that role. You guys will have to put up with me. I know that's rough at the track, but there's a phenomenal team of people. Hopefully you recognize a lot of those names, and they'll be there actually running the event and making things happen. So we have a couple folks who have been away for a bit and are returning, and we're confident, although Ron will be very much missed, that this team will move forward and do a great job with the event. So Steve had mentioned this is an aerial view of the new track. We'll get a little closer. What doesn't appear on here, but I think it does appear, this is a Google Earth image, but does appear in some of the photographs. There's a storage building here, which Steve mentioned as sort of movable, but it's not moving. And then there's another really big storage building. Whoops. Sorry. Right here as well. Again, not moving. The other thing that we had to work with in terms of rearranging things on the track is that with the new track surface, and it really is very, very nice. There are much stricter restrictions on what can and can't go on the track surface. And so we've had to rearrange, a number of our tents. You'll see a diagram and a few pictures of how we are planning to move forward. We may look at rearranging this the next year if this doesn't work out. But some of that impact is, I can tell you right now, unfortunately, we will not have the fire engine misting truck we can't bring it in. The only place we could, it has to stay on asphalt, can't make this turn, and would be blocking any ambulance access as well. So a couple implications like that, and we'll be moving awards and such. Looking closer, you can see some of the storage building here, and then there's another one right here. But this is at the obviously right at the scoreboard, but really looks nice. And then this is over back on the back corner from that. Again, looking pretty nice with that. You can see, we'll touch on this with the relays, but the relays for the 4x1 are marked by the yellow zone within each lane. That's also the same thing in this back corner. That'll be the exchange zone for the final exchange in the 4x2 as well. We'll see about whether we want to leave the hurdles there or not for the competition. So tying in here, track staging will be essentially, this is the overall map. Again, this is not at all to scale, but track staging will be in its typical location. We've moved field staging to right behind track staging coming out from the building, and we put medical right here in this corner. That seems most opportune given the proximity to people in the stands and so on down the line if we need to. The track control center is over here in the yellow spot next to one of the storage buildings. Again, part of the reason for that is that we can get our storage my way for track back there, whereas we can't, as we used to be able to do, get it back into this corner. So it's not necessarily as great a location, but we'll see. Maybe it'll work out even better. And then the volunteer check-in at the track level is right next to it. The other big change is that the awards area is back along this back stretch of the track. There's some asphalt there and such. We'll have barricades that'll circle the track to control traffic, but it's not very far from where it used to be. It used to be right where the storage building is. And there's actually, I think, even more room, at least laterally, and it should work out really well. I think, not that everybody who's on the call has been there before, but everything else is sort of self-explanatory. When it comes to the long jump, we definitely will use this front pit. So if you're out there warming up, or your athletes are out there and they want to put their marks down, they'll put it down on that pit. And then the mini jav, softball, and shot put, and then of course the high jump there. Start lines, finish lines are all the same as they have been previously. In the stands, again, Steve references tents. We welcome you to have tents up, but please, for a visibility standpoint, nothing below or not at or below the fifth row. And then just be mindful that we may need to have folks take them down. It may be because weather is on its way. We utilize a service, actually it's the same service that Towson uses, and we get warnings when stuff is as far as 20 miles out, 7 miles out, so on down the line. So it may look okay, but we have solid indication that something's coming. So we may need folks to take stuff down. Looking here again, just popping through field staging and track staging. This here is that main map I just showed you, but right here in the corner. We actually may utilize part of the field staging tent when it comes time for relays. That was part of the thought process with having that right there, is it can flow right into it. It also will help in terms of them talking to each other in the case of any time conflicts and such. Awards area again, move to the back. The track control center is here. This is just a reminder. That's your primary information source for track and field or for athletics. On Saturday morning, you'll pick up your packets that'll have your bib numbers, your labels. The labels should, knock on wood, already be on the bibs. But there, your printouts, your Bucci reports, so on down the line. We'll post as much of that stuff in advance on the coach resource page, but we want to be sure that you have access to hard copies. Certainly want to utilize technology, but we know that a lot of times it's easiest just to have the hard copy there with you. And then also we'll have that coaches meeting. I talked to several coaches at the Howard County meet on Saturday, and it seemed to be that was a positive move in terms of moving the coaches meeting to Saturday morning. So that will be right outside the control center on Saturday morning. As a reminder, Ron and I have already started going through this. We do have the exit criteria for certain fundamental events. Again, fundamental events are those events that are designed for athletes of a lower ability who are not able to do the official events or the standard events. Anyone, and the cutoffs for these, again, we went through all this in the preseason webinar, but the cutoff for a softball throw is 20 meters. Anyone who can throw the softball 20 meters or large or farther cannot participate in the softball throw. They should be doing a mini jab or a shot or something else. And again, based on the entries, it doesn't look like anybody at this point has an entry score higher than, I think, 15 meters. For the 50-meter race, again, similarly, it's designed for those athletes of a lower ability level. If the athlete can run the 50 in 10 seconds or faster, they really shouldn't be in the 50. They should be in the 100 or something further. We do have 3 athletes who are currently, based on their entries, are not appropriate with this and would not be able to participate in the 50. Again, if they do, if someone does participate in either of these events and exceeds the exit criteria, they'll be disqualified for that event. So it's really all about pushing and encouraging everybody to get their athletes into appropriate events and save those fundamental events for those athletes who really need them. We're going through and cleaning up the data. As a reminder, athletes in track and field can be in up to 3 individual events and 2 relays. And keeping in mind that the pentathlon counts as a single event. And so we're going through and clearing those up and such. And the deadline was yesterday, so we're clearing that through. There may be some follow-up with you. In some cases, we may need to make a decision based on the information that's available, since this all should have been taken care of by last night. The schedule, we're reworking the overall grid. Ron does a really good job of mapping it out, so based on event and age and gender, so that they it minimizes the likelihood of a time conflict where an athlete needs to be or has 2 events going off at the same time or almost the same time. So we rearranged the events by day somewhat. Mainly it's putting the 100 on Saturday, the 50 on Sunday. Shot put is entirely on Sunday. And mini jab is entirely on Saturday. A couple other nuances there. But anyway, we're going to, based on the entries, we're going to redo that puzzle to try to make sure that we can minimize the number of time conflicts. That'll be coming. It'll probably be available. I won't guarantee it until the week of summer games. If we can do it earlier, we will. And again, you'll have the labels and so on down the line on the Bucci reports and so on. Again, for updated schedule stuff, again, the coaches meeting, we will have the coaches meeting at the track at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. We're going to keep it to no more than 20 minutes. We'll try to get everything out ahead of time so that you can do that. You need to have somebody there. We're not equipped to redo the coaches meeting for 10 different coaches who weren't there to be there at that time. So the track will be open no later than 7:30 in the morning, oftentimes a lot earlier. Really encourage you to come down, have your athletes do some warm-ups and workouts and such there, and actually even for the day that the long jump is being held, put your marks down. Again, this is what, I'm not going to go through all this, but this is what your packets are. So I'll touch on the relays later. But we will have you at that 8 o'clock coaches meeting turn in final run orders for the relay. That will be strictly based on folks who are scratches. Prior to that, you will have given us and confirmed your run orders. This is just a look at the bibs we're going to be utilizing. The reason being is that we are now permitted on athlete bibs, not on uniforms, but on competitor bibs, to have a sponsor logo. So this is our first time doing that, and just didn't want folks surprised, so that's why we included that there. It looked really nice. So you all are familiar with this. Again, those of you who've been for a bit, but you'll get your Bucci reports, which is the time sequence that works as a really good checklist. Your report by each athlete and the order of their events. Again, this was for the iOS championship that year, so it was Wednesdays and such. And then on the bib itself will be the listing of the events that the athlete will be in and such. It'll have the day on there as well. This is from another event there. And then you'll get an extra set of those badges to be used, or labels to be used however you see fit. Let's see, maximum effort rule, just in a summary, read this at your leisure, and it's in the event guide. This rule is in place to protect athletes who are competing against someone whose entry score may not have been as accurate as it needed to be. And so if there is someone enters or competes in an event and it's more than 25% improvement between what their entry score is and what their final score is, you could potentially protest that. Noting down here, there's actually more than 4 options, but these are the 4 different options that can come from that. Ron, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think that we've actually DQ'd anybody more than maybe once or twice, if that many. And that was just in a situation where it was clear that the scores were entered to give that the athlete a better chance of winning a goal, putting him in a less competitive heat. So
yeah, I don't remember. I mean, since I've been doing this, is I think at the track since 2013, I don't remember an instance where we felt that happened. By the way, I'm not sure if there's a slide later. In the past, for the coaches who are looking to see where the results are posted, so that you can be there with your calculator. In the past, they've run up against the side of the stands next to where the control center was. This year, they'll be down again where the control center is, but it'll be over probably against the wall of one of those modular buildings that they have back there.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, actually, that is not in there. So, but the key point that we wanted to get across here is, if you think that, and again, it's at least 25%, you're there. The protest process is there for you to defend and protect your athletes' interests. So if it looks like that's the case, I mean, well, I'll leave it at that. We're not going to get upset because you protested. We'll handle it and address it. And while it is possible that the athlete who was in the wrong division, essentially because they had a bad score that entered, it's unlikely, but possible that they could get disqualified. Again, there's several other options, but I don't want to get a barrage. First year Ron's not there and we get 300 protests on this. But you're defending your athletes who are never going to be offended as long as it's handled in a professional manner. I'm a coach as well. I would file a protest in those situations, as in some of those situations at least. So yeah, you're not going to get us upset. So staging, again, everything similar to last year with the exception, or previous years with the exception of the location of the field staging. So you'll check in your athletes at the front table. Both of the staging tents have a table there. They'll check in at the front table there, and then they'll have them go back to their athlete, go back to a particular row or set of chairs. It varies between track and field events as to how they have it organized and such. Key thing is on your labels, on your reports and such, it's going to have a staging time there. Have them checking in 15 minutes prior to that. Once we get to that staging time or that set time that it's there, we will send the heat out as long as they're ready for them on the track or at the field event venue. So get them in, and if someone misses their event because they're late, it's very unlikely we're going to be able to reassign them to a heat. The way everything goes, there's usually not an open spot to put somebody in that still is fair from the divisioning requirements.
One more thing, Mike. In the past, to the best of our ability, if we're moving faster than the schedule, we will be listening for the intercom. We'll be listening for the announcer, calling for divisions that might be a little bit ahead of schedule. Because if we are moving ahead of schedule, we're going to keep to that. We won't be disqualifying athletes who weren't there because they're adhering to the schedule on the paper. But if we can move ahead, we will. And to the best of our ability, we will be making those announcements over the intercom.
Thank you. And then just a reminder, with an exception we'll touch on later, only athletes and the athletics volunteers are permitted in the staging area. Coaches, family members, etc., are not permitted. But you bring your athletes with you to check in. In all honesty, if the athlete is independent enough to check him or herself in, that's fine. But just use your judgment with that. It doesn't, again, I have several athletes who will, I'm sure, be checking themselves in. But if they don't do it correctly or they don't get there and whatever, that'll be, the challenge. They may miss their competition. Again, I'm not going to read through all this. This just basically says if they miss their competition due to a competition conflict, not because they were snoozing or whatever, but they miss it because there was a time conflict, we'll make an effort to put them in another heat later. But just the reality is most of the time that's just plain and simple not possible. And it's unfortunate, I understand. But again, we'll do what we can. Let's see. I think, and the other thing also, if you do have a time conflict, and again, you can see it looking at their, at the label that's on their bib and the reports that you'll get, you can, it behooves you to go and check in at both the track staging and the field staging, or if the conflict was for 2 field events or 2 track events, just that one, and let the person there who's checking people in know of the situation. It can happen where they're out there, they do their mini jab, and we have a volunteer escort who then takes them right from the mini jab over to the long jump or whatever the event where the conflict is. Let's see. With staging also, this is what I'm talking about, the exception. Each coach or each head coach, each delegation will be given 2 staging credentials that allow you to have someone go into the staging area. That gives you 1 for track, 1 for field, although they're interchangeable. There's nothing special about them. And be in there to help your athletes stretch, so on down the line. Do keep in mind that if someone is disruptive or etc., the credential can be revoked. And we have, not this one, we revoked some photographer credentials also in the past. So usually not an issue. Also know that don't take your athlete to anybody who's doing that. Don't take them out of the staging area or the immediate area of the staging tent. If you're in there working with your athlete and they miss their division walking out, that's on you or on your athlete. And unfortunately, they again may miss their competition. For relays, again, because we're looking at moving we are moving the coaches meeting from Friday night to Saturday morning, you'll receive an email with the draft relay sheets by June 12th. One of the helpful things in doing all the different events where we did the GMS for folks, or for Baltimore County, Montgomery County, Howard County, Allegheny, forget who else, Anne Arundel also. For relays, where we had relays, we basically have all that stuff typed out. We just have to edit it. So we'll send that to you by June 12th, earlier if we can. And then you need to email back to me no later than Monday the 17th with any corrections. We want to have it. The only way this can work is if we don't have major changes on Saturday morning. We can handle minor changes, putting in an alternate for an athlete who no-shows. Can't have, well, first, the composition of the team can't change other than an alternate, and we can't have all these different run orders changing there. Yes, in other situations that would be permitted and all, but just realistically, it's a no-winner and such. So get all that stuff into me by the 17th. Again, look for the thing that'll come out to you, and then any of those minor changes for an athlete scratching or a medical situation too, need by 10 o'clock. If it's a medical situation after 10 o'clock, we'll certainly deal with it as well. Again, relays, I'm not going to read through all this. These are all just reminders of rules. Keep in mind also that your alternates, to use anybody as an alternate for the relay, they have to be registered as an alternate for the relay. They are assigned, they are alternates. They're not assigned to a particular team. They are alternates for all of the 4x1s or all of your 4x1 teams and such. When you get the list of relay teams, you'll see after the last division, or at the end of the listing of relay teams, there'll be a listing of all the alternates who are registered for that at that time. Those of you who were at the Howard County meet on Saturday, you saw that on the relay sheets as well. So those are the people who you have access to utilize as an alternate. Let's see. For the exchange zones, so just as a reminder, for the 4x1, they are all these yellow zones. That's the full 30 meters. There's no old little triangle markings here at all. That's that whole stretch there. For the 4x2, remember they start at the finish line sort of, but they'll come around. Their exchange zones are different depending upon which lap it is. So on this track, their first exchange zone will be marked by the black triangles. You can see a couple of them here highlighted with the green. So the exchange needs to occur between those two triangles. The second exchange is again right around the finish line or their start line. That again for the 4x2 is marked by the black triangles there. And then for their third exchange, the final one, it goes back to it's the same as the what's used for the 4x1, which is the yellow band on this track. For the 4x4, which again we do as a one-turn stagger, where the first runners can cut in at the break line on the back of the track. All the exchanges are between this line of blue triangles and this line. The 4x4 exchange zone is only 20 meters. It's not 30 like it is for the 4x1 and 4x2. And so those need to go within there. But again, and actually the black triangle and the blue triangles are pretty standard for most tracks and such, but just want to be sure. I would strongly recommend on Saturday morning and on Sunday morning, get out there with your team and get them acclimated to those exchange zones, because they are likely, they're different from any of the tracks I've been at a meet with for this season. So just to get them ready. This just kind of talks through the exchange zone. I'm not going to go into anything on that. Rules, things that should go without saying, but we're going to say them anyway just to make sure, because again, some of the questions I've gotten, honestly, mostly from family members, not from coaches, but just want to be sure. One, all races will start with a gun. No exception. All races. Headphones are not permitted while competing or competing sorry for that typo. That's including the noise canceling type. The athlete can wear earplugs. Those are permissible. And also the starter at his or her sole discretion can move further down the track. And that usually is works pretty well. As an example, on Saturday, we had one athlete who was wearing headphones. We had them take them off. And actually she was fine. Again, the starter went down. It was for the 100, might have gone down 30, 40 meters. And she was fine. Pacing is not permitted. That includes somebody outside the track running alongside the track as an athlete is running or walking or whatever. It will cause or can cause a disqualification. A reminder also, and again, we know a lot of the athletes who come to some of the area hosted meets may not be going on to summer games, but keep in mind that family members and coaches will not be able to be with the athlete up at the start line or at the long jump pit or whatever. The athletes need to have a level of independence where they can go there with the assistance of the escorts that'll come from the staging area. But they're not going to be able to stand there at the start line with mom or dad or coach holding their hand. We have really good clerks in Antonio and Dan, and Scott is an amazing starter, and they'll do what they can in those situations. But honestly, folks, if the athlete isn't ready for that kind of a scenario, probably shouldn't be entered in either that event or potentially entered in summer games. It's okay not to be ready yet for it, but don't put them in that situation. Long jump, again, toe board must be 1 meter from the sand pit, just in case there's any question. And again, I can't emphasize strongly enough to use the warm-up space. You can even, if the coach is with the athlete, you can use the back stretch of the track to warm up too later in the day. Coach has to be with them to supervise them, and you need to stay out of the way of anything going on. And you'll have the schedule of when the 200s or actually, it wouldn't even affect the 200s, but a 400 or a race using the full track is in play. Weather plan, again, Steve touched on this, but again, if it's thundering or lightning, go into the TU arena. That is different from what we did on Saturday last year. We got a double dose last year of lightning storms, some on Saturday and some on Sunday. On Saturday, what we did with the concourse is not permitted. Everybody's going to go into the TU arena, which as we did on Sunday. Again, rain plan. I'm not going to go through all this. You can read it at your leisure. It's also in the event guide. Reminder on uniforms and so on. They need to be in appropriate athletic attire. And if you have any question on site, come and check with me or Chris McGinnis will be our referee. We can take a quick look. No street shorts, so no khakis, no cargo shorts. They need to be athletic shorts. That's where the issue comes. Mostly tops, could be a t-shirt. Hopefully most of you are using singlets and such. With that also, bibs pinned on the front and such. So where if they need to change their shoes or something like that, make sure that happens before they come down to check into staging, because the event will not be held up for them. Again, this touches on a lot of that. Again, no headphones, no loose jewelry, medals, ribbons, or anything like that will be worn, and such. And again, we'll have the escorts that go will collect the credentials. So the athlete should come, even though they have their bib on, should come with their credentials. The escort will take them and then give them back at the end, and similarly can do that. In most cases, no hats, no other stuff other than on the longer distance races, for those reasons, in terms of just the distance. If anybody needs starting blocks or needs to use starting blocks, please let us know in advance. and which events they're registered in. Starting blocks can only be used up to in events that are a total of 400 meters or shorter. Meaning with that the say the 4x2, even though the athlete's only running 200 meters, the race itself is more than 400 meters long, and starting blocks are not permitted for that. Basic reason is that they, if they're not removed quickly enough, they could be in the way of an incoming runner. So it's a safety issue. Again, coaching during competition, you can do stuff before you check them in, but once they're checked in, no coaching is permitted by coach, spectator, or family member, start area, and so on down the line. Coaching is anything that is instructive for the athlete. And as an example, so Saturday, I trained a really good guy who's a new starter now, Adam. So I was over with the timers for I think it was for the 1500 or something. And, way to go, looking good. Those are all fine. One of the timers started shouting, "Pace yourself." That's coaching. Potentially wrong coaching also for them, because that's not necessarily what their coach taught them. But we nipped that in the bud right away. But anything that smacks of an instruction could be considered coaching and may be subject to a disqualification. Again, it's the athlete's performance in the competition that is what really we're looking to recognize and award place to, not your ability to shout instructions and assist them that way. Mentioned about the staging credentials, and again, the two to get into the staging area. We also will give each area, these will be in your packets, 2 photo credentials that are for you to utilize to go out almost anywhere, as long as you're not in the way of a competition, and do need to follow anything that any of the athletic or the track teams, management teams direction, but go out, take pictures, and so on. This is not a hidden opportunity to go out and coach your athletes on the field. It is if we catch any of that, we're going to revoke the credential. Again, not fair to everybody else. But utilize that for taking pictures, get up close and such. But again, need to follow whatever the official at that location tells you to do, even if it means you're not getting as good a picture as you might want. We're there for the athletes, not for pictures. So just be judicious as to who you give these to. As I mentioned, I personally revoked a photo credential for somebody who was out there. This was several years ago, but who was out there basically to yell at an official, and that was revoked. So don't want to have that kind of situation again. Mentioned about protests and appeals. Again, for track and field, different from any other sport, quite frankly. It is the one sport where an athlete or a competitor can file a protest on their own behalf. We've only had a handful of those. Joe Wu from Montgomery County was the very first person to file, very first athlete to file a protest on his own behalf. So we encourage that when it's appropriate. Please do, if your athlete wishes to file a protest, guide them through the process. We're not changing the process for that athlete. They need to fill out the form and so on down the line. And in many cases, them formulating or kind of writing out what the specific issue is that they're protesting, a lot of folks can use it, some assistance. A lot of times they don't. But anyhow, you'll turn that in if there is any a protest. You'll turn that into the Athletics Control Center, and we'll pull together the team for that. Please keep in mind, protest, other than the 25% or the maximum effort rule, if there's an error or something going on, don't have as your very first thing to go and file a protest right away. Come and talk to the venue, talk to me, talk to, and this is for head coaches. We don't want every coach, family member, whatever. But if you as a head coach think something's was done wrong or needs to be fixed or something like that, come and talk to us. We can save you time and trouble in many cases if it's something that can be resolved and there's no need to file a protest and do the fair thing for the athletes who are involved. If it's not resolved to your satisfaction, you still have the opportunity to file that protest there. And again, you can appeal to the Games Rules Committee. Actually, your head of delegation can appeal. And that needs to be within 24 hours. Yes, that could be after the games are over, in which case we would re-award. One other note with that too, and this goes with the 25% rule or the maximum effort rule and such. If an award has already been presented, and this happens frequently, where the awards have been presented before the protest is filed, because sometimes, I mean, our awards folks and our whole team is just amazingly efficient in most situations. If that happens and it results in an athlete who, say, got a silver medal actually having earned fourth place, I'm making stuff up here, we aren't going to take the silver medal away from the athlete to whom it was already awarded. We'll mark the change in the records and so on, and we'll re-award anybody who would move up in an award area. So also I was talking about, don't worry, they may not, it's unlikely, possible, but unlikely they get disqualified. It's also unlikely we're not going to go up and yank the gold medal off their neck and present them, a participation ribbon or something. I just want you to feel comfortable to use the tool that's there for you to defend your athletes. And then again, just use it when it's needed. Protest form is here. You can read through it. It's how to fill out. They're on 3-part NCR. Keep the pink copy with that so that you know what you submitted. And we'll use the yellow and the white for the other follow-ups that come with it. And with that, unless Ron, you had anything, and I apologize, we're a few minutes over here. Was there anything else that I skipped over or you wanted to emphasize, since this may be one of the few times you'll see these folks?
I don't necessarily want, this is not something you skipped over, not something I want to emphasize, but it occurred to me that there may be one more thing to add to the things that should go without saying in terms of protests. For an athlete to file a protest, it's for an event that that athlete has participated in.
Yes.
Not for anything that they that an athlete may feel is askew with a friend's or a friend's event.
Right. Well, and also, so you as a coach also, you can only file a protest on something that affects one of your athletes. So if you're a disinterested participant, then you can't. So Tina, I saw you waving your hand. I'm not sure whether, I know you're in your car, but did you have a question? No.
Then Mike, I don't know if you saw in the chat, I was able to get clarification, if you will.
Yeah.
For the food vendors, the pizza bullies and Kona Ice for Friday and Saturday, as well as our merchandise sales on Saturday as well at the dance. Both credit and cash will be accepted.
Okay. Cool. Are there any other questions from anybody, any of the coaches here? Nope. Okay. We'll have all this stuff posted by tomorrow morning with the link to the recording as well as the slides. And we'll send that all out to folks as a reminder. Again, that'll probably go out tomorrow. And look to have the athletic section of the event guide posted tomorrow as well. And we'll go from there. So if we could, Dottie, actually, let me close the recording.
I think as you do that, Mike,